All right. I think we're live, everyone. Craig here. Welcome to the Resourceful Catholic Man channel. Happy to welcome Jeff Putnam to this channel. Welcome back. I've had you on some of my other stuff. Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself quickly?
Well, appreciate the invite in return.
Mhm.
Like you said, Jeff Putnam, and I believe in the description it says I'm a Catholic dad, I'm an author, and I'm an entrepreneur. So
That
that should
fair?
let you know just about everything that I share with other people.
Well, that's good. And I know that you have a pretty big Twitter following. Is Twitter kind of your main channel, or do you play around on other social channels as well?
Twitter's kind of the main one. I have a YouTube channel I just started about a month ago. It's got a little over 500 subscribers, so it's not huge.
What's the name of the channel?
Uh, Jeff Putnam.
Okay, what kind of stuff do I'll put a link to it in the description. What kind of stuff do you do over on that one?
It's kind of whatever comes to mind. 5 or 8 minute videos. I think about something or I read something interesting and I do a video.
Okay, mostly talking, so it's not videos of you out hang gliding and cutting firewood. It's mostly talking stuff.
Yeah, it's just me sitting right here at this desk. It's kind of more like I made this observation and I realized I was an idiot when I was younger. So here's some advice.
Some of us still are, so
Yeah, it's constant work in progress kind of thing.
hmm. What was the observation?
Just random ones. One of them being I did a video on something I noticed because now my homeschool kids are going through some of the old middle school books that I did in school, like The Great Gatsby and All Quiet on the Western Front. But in The Great Gatsby, it was, the whole moral of the story isn't about, Gatsby screwed himself because he was lying to others. It was more about he was lying to himself and he lacked this kind of emotional intelligence where he thought he could generate Daisy Buchanan's attraction if he became the thing that he wasn't when they had the opportunity to get together when they were younger. Rich girls don't marry poor boys is kind of the famous line from that. And so he thought if he became this rich man with all this status and power and influence, that she would just instantly fall in love with him because he was, irrevocably smitten with her. But it was more about his self-deception because his entire thing was built on an illusion, and it was built on an illusion that he created that he even believed. And so it was just a little 8-minute video kind of through that.
Nice. Well, what for those? I mean, I'm guessing most of the people that are going to see this right away or live probably know who you are and what you do. But and I know you're. Feel free to share how much of your background you want to kind of how you got to where you are now. But if a snapshot right now, kind of what do you do for a living?
I put words on a keyboard that people want to read.
Okay.
Not always for myself. I'm a professional writer, full-time, don't have any other means of income. Most of my writing over the past several years has been for other people as a ghostwriter, CEOs or people who have just an interesting story to tell. One guy was a DEA agent involved in hunting down Escobar. Another guy was one of the people being hunted by the DEA because he was smuggling for Escobar. Those kind of people that pay good money to write a book that they either don't know how to write or don't have time to write. Mm-hmm. And I finally, just yesterday, released my debut fiction novel, which is not the only fiction novel I've ever written, but it's the only one I've ever published under my name that I wrote for me. But I started writing professionally and earning money. You're not a professional writer until someone actually pays you for it.
Yeah, right.
So that was around 2019 But I've been
Was your first time,
right.
like, being a professional writer is 2019?
Yeah, someone actually paying for words that I wrote.
Mhm.
Um, but I've been writing, since I was a kid, mainly because I liked reading and I was always jealous people could tell good, cool and entertaining stories. I wanted to figure out how to do it. But, I started my own company, which was an online retail company back in 2018 while I was working for a automotive manufacturing. We made seats for BMW. And I didn't like the idea of spending 30 years working at a factory building seats in cars that I couldn't afford. And you know what? I'm going to start my own company. Give myself 10 years to do this. Well, it actually worked out pretty good. I sold that company September 2023. And was it? Yeah, it was 2023. For some reason, I was thinking this was still 2024, but I haven't quite gotten used to 2025 yet. But sold it because it had run its course and I just didn't have the time to keep messing with it because I was getting more income from people who wanted me to write for them. And that's kind of where I want to focus all of my efforts. And my other company just kind of was taking away from that. So I sold it and was pretty much what I've been doing ever since. I did recently take a job at a sawmill,
I saw
which is
that.
like 3 minutes from my house, but that was because when Hurricane Helene came through, and we were talking before the show, about 2 hours south of Asheville, so we still got
Mhm,
tons of debris,
mhm,
8 days no power. I had 70-foot trees laying on top of my house, and we lost a lot, and so needed
mhm,
the extra income to kind of
mhm.
recoup those losses and repair all of the damages. But I only did that for about 4 months.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, it was great.
Um, Tell me a little bit about your family. So you have a large family too, I think, is that right?
Yeah, 9 kids, 8 boys, 1 girl,
What are the, 8
1 wife, only one.
Okay. Yeah, me too, right, we got there the honest way. What are the age ranges?
25 to 10.
Okay. You packed them in a little more than I did. So you have some kids out of the house, I assume? Maybe, hopefully out of the house?
Oh yeah. There are only 3 in the house
Oh, wow.
that are under 18. I've got an 18 and a 19-year-old who are moving out this summer because they've been working and saving up all their cash and,
Mhm.
you know, working 40, 50 hours a week at their jobs. And so that's what we wanted for all of them was I'm not going to kick you out the day you turn 18, but you're not going to
Yeah.
be a lazy bum.
Mhm.
You're going to be productive, or I'm going to give you a date. Like, okay, by June 1st, you better have all your ducks in a row. If not, you're going to be couch surfing with your friends. And that kind of lights a fire. Oh crap, I have to be an adult. I've only had to do that with one. It kind of lights a fire because I'm the guy that if I don't give myself a deadline or I don't have a
Mm,
deadline imposed on me, I'm not gonna,
mm.
be in any rush. So some of my kids got that trait. And so I got to go, all right, here's the deadline. You need to have X amount of dollars, saved up to get your own place. And now, if they get to that date and they're
Mm.
like, I've got $27,000 saved up, but this is a wild example. If they had that much saved, they could move out yesterday.
Yeah,
But you know, I've got X dollars saved up, but I'm only 1,000 short. It's not like, oh well, you're screwed.
yeah,
It's nothing like that.
yeah. Yeah, that's a hard I mean, I'm kind of in that zone now trying to figure out how to sort of gently nudge them out. So my oldest kind of took care of that for me. He signed up for the Marines before he was 18, and so he shipped out um, basically right after he finished high school. And and then my next oldest, my daughter, um, she wasn't sure what she did some local tech school stuff, and now she's at a university. And then the next one is my next one is a senior, and he's just turned 18, and he wanted a pickup truck in the worst way. And I he and I kind of went round and round about that because he wanted a nice big 4-wheel drive. He didn't want anything new, but he wanted to be able to drive a Dodge Ram pickup truck to school. And I'm like, listen here, buddy, I've got a car here for you. It's paid for. You just take it to school. You have a part-time job, so he milks cows after school during the week. And I said, just wait. Like you're 4 months from graduating. Save some money. You could buy a much nicer vehicle right away. And he wanted me to co-sign on a loan. I said, I'm not doing that for you. This is a dumb decision. Well, I had talked to him. He's like, fine, Dad. So we went out and he went to the bank and he got his own loan and he bought it himself. And he's so anyway, so he's happy now. He's got a brand new pickup. He's got a pickup truck that needs a set of tires. I'm like, you know what that's going to cost you, buddy. But it's that you know give him some responsibility, and I kind of give him credit. I was sort of holding back, and he's like, well, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. So every kid's a little different.
Yeah, I had almost the same scenario with my 18-year-old. He's like, Dad, I want a car, I want a car. And my deal with all of my kids has always been, well, if you come to me with, like I say, if you've found like a $5,000 car on Craigslist or something, if you come to me with 2,500, I'll match you that 25.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay all of your own insurance. I'm
Yep.
never going to give you gas money. So you have to have a job.
Yep.
And I'm not letting my insurance rates go through the roof. I've been with the same insurance company for 20 years and my rate is beautiful. You're not screwing that up.
Yeah.
You're not going to screw that up. You're not going to mess up my impeccable record. I've had 2 tickets my entire life. Mainly just not because I'm a great driver. I am a great driver, but I'm not a safe driver. I've just never got caught.
Yeah,
right. Just because I always have the best luck when it comes to seeing a cop and I'm like, oh, yeah, zip, gone.
Yeah, me too.
But he wanted a motorcycle as well. And I'm like, well, you can get a motorcycle or you can get a car, but I'm never going to co-sign a loan with you ever.
Yeah.
Not because I don't trust you, but because things happen and I'm not going to have that screw up everything I'm working for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can either do it the hard way, work up, save your money.
Yep.
Or you can get your own loan and I'm still Dad,
Yep. Yeah.
Something happens and you're like, oh, I'm going to be like a couple of days late. Can you pay it? And I'll pay you back. Absolutely. I got you.
Yep.
But he decided on his own, I'm going to go out and get my own loan. And now he's got a brand new motorcycle and that's how he zips back and forth to work.
Yeah, that's kind of what he did. And I can hear it running out there now. It's kind of loud. He's all excited to get out. So we had this little, it was literally a 99 Dodge or 90s. It was a late 90s Dodge Dakota 2-wheel drive that he drove around, and that thing finally gave up the ghost. So I think this is maybe like a 2007 Dodge Ram half-ton. So we'll see. I used to do a lot of car work. I don't do so much now. Mostly I just don't have the time, and I don't have a nice shop or garage I can roll vehicles into, and I would probably make it worse because I know enough to be dangerous but not enough to be really good at it. So we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't turn out to be a lemon, but he didn't pay a ton for it. So if worst case happens, you'll park it and you can drive my car back and forth and make payments on a vehicle that doesn't drive.
Such is life.
Yeah.
I took auto mechanics in high school because it was one of those, we had this kind of a vocational program where through high school, it was like a 4-block system. You had 2 classes in the morning, then lunch, and then 2 classes in the evening. Well, for some of us, if we signed up for them, we could have the first half of the day, we get to school and then we get on another bus and then we're taken to this vocational school and we learn a trade for 2 block periods. And then we come back and then the next group would get on a bus and go there for the second half of the day. And so I did auto mechanics for 4 years and I was like this close to getting my ASE certification. But I joined the Army instead immediately after 9/11.
So. Yeah. What's your what's your favorite kind of car to drive or to yeah to drive?
I just like the old, you know, 80s and 90s square body Chevys, man. Those are just perfect.
Trucks or cars? Trucks.
Trucks.
Yeah.
Like the best car I ever had, it's still sitting in my backyard, is a 99 Chevy Suburban.
Hmm.
Big, jacked up, black on black on black. I'm talking black rims, black grill, black emblem, sitting, on big ass, massive 35-inch tires. And it's got like 300,000 miles on it. I walk out there right now, turn the key, starts just fine.
Isn't that amazing?
And everything back then was plug and play too. I didn't need a laptop to fix my car. It's like, oh, this is broken. Take it off, put new one on. It's fixed.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I've I resisted getting the new stuff for a long time. Uh, it's becoming harder and harder to do that, especially here in the Midwest. Old stuff is all rusted out, and so are you still driving older stuff? Or is your regular vehicle a new
My
one with
regular
all the?
vehicle's a 2016 Nissan Rogue,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
mainly because that Suburban has a 42-gallon gas tank.
yeah,
I'm like, ah, it's
yeah. You got to take out a small loan every time you fill up,
I
right?
always hated every time I had to fill that thing all the way up.
Yeah, our main vehicle, although it doesn't, we have a 15 passenger Chevy Express with a 6 liter, and that thing is, I mean, like it leaks oil. The power steering system is all like the lines are all rotted, so you have to like add it, but you can't really fix it because once you start taking it apart, it just it's like unwinding a sweater. They said you'll never be able to stop. So he said just keep adding stuff, and that thing is it's got 250 some thousand miles. It looks like hell, but literally, if I go out there right now, it'll start right up. It makes no sense to me. It starts on the coldest of days, and that thing is just a beast. So I wish I could get another one like that. So it's like a 2003 Chevy, you know, solid
Yeah.
vehicle. I
I
wish I
want to
had
get me a
another.
little 95, 90, 93 to 96 little Ford Ranger 5-speed if I could find one of those. But cash for clunkers screwed everybody over.
Yeah,
All of
right.
all of the, the great used market vehicles that we could have bought have all been given away, pretty much given away so people could get a little bit of extra cash in their pockets. And now the used market car prices are insane.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've kind of become so so Bradley talks about a jet. I had a Jetta. I had a diesel Jetta 2 cars ago. No, I guess it was the car I got before the one I have now. It was about that. It was almost the same year, 2011, 2012 diesel, and that sucker. I don't know. The oil cooling system went out on it, and then the clutch went out on it, and it's like every time you do anything on it, it's like just give me $4,000, to do anything on it. And so I sold it to my brother-in-law, who's a mechanic, and he fixed it up and he drives it around. But I'm kind of a Toyota man now. I've had the last two vehicles I bought were Toyota. We have two Toyota Sienna minivans, and knock on wood, those have been the best vehicles I've had in a long time. So
If
I don't
Trump
know.
makes it to where we can buy the Hilux, oh man, I will throw away $12,000 so fast.
The Hilux, I don't even know what that is.
It's a Nissan pickup. It's a
Just
simple
bare,
pickup
yeah.
like what you could find anywhere, but
Mhm.
most of the people who know what they are military veterans because it's
Mm,
the same Toyota pickup that was being driven around by the Mujahideen and ISIS and
I see.
the Taliban. You can literally blow these things up and just beat them to death with a 50 cal and they'll still run, mainly because the frame is all one piece. It's not multiple pieces. So you can roll it down a mountain and still drive away without messing up your alignment. It's awesome. But for some reason, with the insanely unnecessary, intricate system of, well, safety and this and that, the other, whatever that the government has, you can buy them everywhere except in America.
Yeah. There's a company that does, I can't think of the name of it. They have kind of a bare bones, like a Jeep, I think it is. And I don't think you can drive it on the road, but it's like a I don't know, the equivalent of an old Willie's Jeep, but it's simple and you could people drive it around instead of like side by sides and stuff like that. But it's the same thing, just bare bones, pull a switch, lights go on kind of stuff. And
And I mean, I love a good Jeep. Now, for a little while, I had a 2021 Jeep Wrangler. It was the Eco Diesel. And
oh,
all that meant is that it did that stupid thing where it cuts off at the red light when you're stopped, and then it starts back up and you can drive off. That thing was great. Little, uh, I would say it's more of a I love this thing and it's a toy,
mhm.
you know, because mileage in Wranglers isn't that great. Even though it was a diesel, I could drive all the way to the coast, which is like 4 hours away on a single tank, and Wranglers didn't have, massive tanks. But the only thing that's keeping me from getting a Jeep now, at least one that's new, is now whenever your car stops at a stop sign or a red light, the dash completely against your will starts playing ads like those screaming TV screens at the
Really?
gas station.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, no, this can't happen. We've gone too far. 1984.
That
No.
that's wild. Was that Jeep, was that like a four-cylinder diesel then, or?
Yeah, it was, I think it was like a 3.7 liter.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the electric stuff sort of taken over the diesel, but I've always been a fan of diesels. Like I said, I did like that diesel Jetta. That sucker got great gas mileage. Um, I got the 5 speed, the 6 speed, thinking it would be a more economical in the long run than they had a very complicated automatic transmission. Well, then the clutch. I was trying to teach my kids how to drive it, and they just couldn't do it. I think they just destroyed the clutch.
It is now an anti-theft device for
It is
anybody
really like,
under the age of 30.
yeah, yeah. I love that car. It was a great car to drive, but no one else. My wife wouldn't even try to learn it, and my kids couldn't figure it out. And so,
Give
yeah,
them a pickup truck with 3 on the tree, baby.
yeah. Well, but even the old Dodge we have, it's an old 4 speed, and it's got such a like that Jetta has such a short stroke. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was just like out of gear, in
Uh,
gear.
it's got a shorter gear displacement.
Yeah, so it's like you're just like very jumpy if you try. It was hard to learn on, where the old Dodge just kind of got a long. You kind of lay it out, and it is very forgiving. You could start in first gear pretty much anywhere, and so yeah, probably wasn't the right vehicle to start him with. But
Yeah.
so let's get back to your book. So you said this is the first book that you've written under your own name, or did I?
No, it's not the first book I've written under my own name, but it's the first fiction I've written under my
Oh,
own name.
fiction. I see. Okay. Is it fair to assume you expect there'll be more of them then?
Yeah, I'm already halfway through the second one.
Okay. What's the name of this one?
This one is called The Last Nazi,
Okay.
and it's a swashbuckling, globe-trotting adventure, right? And the idea came to me 2 weeks ago. Yes, 2 weeks ago, because and I
That's
wrote the
not when you
thing in
started writing it, right?
yeah, I wrote it in 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
Well, technically I wrote it in 3, but the other 2 days were editing and formatting and going through the publication process on Amazon.
That's crazy.
It's not the fastest I've ever written a book, but when you write that was the 74th book that I've written.
Okay.
So I've
Well,
done it a time or two.
yeah.
So writing is,
Yeah.
I could
Sure.
sit down. I was sitting down at 6 a.m. and writing until 9 p.m. for 3 days straight.
Hmm.
My wife didn't see me at all for those days,
Hmm.
and she just kept bringing me coffee and food.
Was this something you had been planning to do, or just suddenly it's developed and you said, "What the hell? Let's just do it."
It was more like I've got a great idea for a character and a story, and it happened because it was on one of my rare lazy Fridays where I didn't have that much to do for a client, and sat down and I just watched all 3 of the Indiana Jones movies back to back with, the family.
The real three, the original
Oh,
trilogy.
there's only 3.
Well, isn't there the no? Isn't there
No, those are no. Those are
Crystal
figments
Skull?
of our imagination. There's only
Okay,
3.
okay, all right. How many
And
Star Wars movies are there?
3.
Okay, you are old school.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I just get this idea and I'm like,
Mhm.
man, because I can sit and watch old 90-minute movies over and over and over again because the whole thing was just purposely written and filmed and crafted to be entertaining. It was to
Mhm.
be fun,
Yeah.
right? And you had to tell a story. You had to keep you hooked for 90 minutes and then you got
Yep.
to walk out.
Mm.
You see Mel Gibson running through a Christmas tree farm, shooting guys who were selling cocaine. The guy in the red shirt was the lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers' dad, actually. But and at the end, they're driving away. The credits are rolling. You stayed hooked for the whole thing through Lethal Weapon, right? Great movie. Bang bang, shoot 'em up. Same thing with Indiana Jones. And you don't see stories like this anymore. Even in books, you don't see simple, entertaining, fun stories. And I wanted to write one. So I got the idea and I sat down and I probably spent 4 hours outlining and plotting, and I just sat down, started writing, and then didn't stop writing until it was done. And then about, I would say halfway through it, I went, I don't like where this is going. And so I went all the way back to like the 3rd chapter and wrote again from there. And I was like 19 chapters in. So I got rid of 16 chapters and then rewrote it a completely different way.
So what's it like? I mean, so like, is there someone else that, like, I don't want to say peer reviews it, but someone else that you trust that looks at it and like kind of looks at it in a, let's say, an unbiased fashion and tells you which parts of your book suck, or how do you just put it together and you said, we're going to publish it?
Well, beta readers are beneficial. I had, you know, a handful of beta readers on this one that read different parts of the book, and some of them that read the entire book. But some feedback I take, and listen, I've been writing for a while now, and I get feedback or criticism whether I ask for it or not. So I never take anything personally.
Mhm.
Hey, this sucks. Okay, I don't think it does, so I'm leaving it in the book.
Mhm.
Not all books are for everyone. People are like, "Oh, Flowers for Algernon was great. That was a terrible book." Yet it sold millions of copies. Literature and the entertainment media you consume is going to be subjective,
Yeah.
right? And I wrote a pulp adventure book. It's short, it's crunchy, it's punchy, and it's written in the classic 1940s to 1960s style that you would get like Doc Savage or Buck Rogers or, gosh, I can't remember, Black Mask, all these like H.P. Lovecraft, Richard Matheson kind of stories, or what was it? Robert E. Howard, Conan, right? Some of them are written out like when you go to Barnes and Nobles now and you open up and you see it's very long and very descriptive. You can visualize everything. Dialogue is, sparse, but detailed enough to kind of give you the story. And then this one is very, for 4 chapters, it's just nonstop, playing out like a movie would. And then it'll slow down a little bit.
Mhm.
And then the tension ramps back up. And then
Is
it's
that by
super fast
design?
paced.
Is that
Yes,
sort of by
because
design?
that's generally how most pulp adventure is.
Mhm.
You've got a long action, high intensity sequence, and then you've got like a very short period of respite, and then tension starts ramping, and then it explodes again, and then
Mhm.
repeats over and over and over until it's just all out. And at the end of it, you're sweating and you're exhausted and you're done and you need a cigarette.
And assuming there's going to be more books, is there going to be like a continuation of the storyline, or is everyone going to be kind of a distinct story? So they kind of,
Well,
there's
most of them,
distinct ending and stuff.
the protagonist is going to be consistent throughout. You know, it's a character named Cole Harper. He's a former World War II pilot. He wasn't an ace or anything. He flew transports, and he got dishonorably discharged from the Army because he was smuggling contraband.
Mm-hmm.
And to avoid prison, he agreed to never come back to the U.S. And so he's just been a smuggler. Right?
Okay.
He's kind of like a chaotic neutral. The only thing he really cares about is getting paid and not getting shot.
Sounds like Indiana, or sounds like Star Wars.
Yeah, kind of. He wants to get paid and he doesn't want to get shot. But when you kind of poke at him just enough, he's got this kind of a buried moral compass where he's like, dang it, I got to do the right thing, much to my chagrin, you know. And he's not this pretty boy, overpowered, spandex wearing loser who's always right, who's always looking to do the right thing. And to answer the question that you had put up, outlining, every single writer is going to tell you different.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, yeah, that one there.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, do you start with a concept and a sentence and then make an outline, or does outlining gets in the way? The correct answer is yes.
Yes.
The correct answer is yes to both questions, because one writer is going to say, never make an outline.
Mm-hmm.
Let the story flow organically. And then another writer is going to go, you always have to outline. So it really depends on the writer. If you can't write an outline and stick to it, because I promise you, when you write an outline, you're not going to stick to it.
Yeah, right.
You're going to go, I've got a much better idea, and now the story goes way left.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's going to happen. And so now I write the story as I go. I have no idea how it's going to end, but I get, like, I'll pull up the document that I have now. Let's see. This one is about 16,843 words is where I'm at right now on it. So it's 10 and a half chapters long, and I have no idea what's going to happen next. And I'll just sit here and write, and then, I'm stuck. I'm going to go grab the eggs out of the chicken coop. I'm going to go drink some coffee. I'll take my laptop to the living room and just sit it down in my chair, and I'll watch TV for a little while. And then I'll go, open up the laptop and start pounding away for another 1,000 words.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of wondering how that worked, and I think that's kind of what Bradley was asking here. And if I was to be a writer, I think I do writing for my regular day job, and sometimes that's what you do. You just write for a while, and then you just step away, and then you come back, and you can't. I think it's really hard to force it. It's like, okay, I've got to finish this by tomorrow, as opposed to just, like I said, let it sort of develop in front of you. It sounds kind of what you do, huh?
Yes and no. I don't know if I have ADHD or ADD, which I don't know which one is which.
Yeah.
But I have this thing where I daydream a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I can be watching a movie, listening to my wife talk, and completely 100% focused interaction with my kid who's showing me something, either on his tablet or with his Legos or whatever, and having a conversation about Dragon Ball Z with him. And then in the same time, I've got this hamster on a wheel just rolling around going, it would be freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I got a line that popped into my head in the very first chapter in the sequel to the book that I just released yesterday. Guy in the second book, the main antagonist villain is a guy named Richard Ashcombe. And when he's introducing himself to the protagonist, he goes, "My name is Richard Ashcombe." He goes, "And you are?" And Cole Harper, who is the protagonist, tied with his hands behind his back to a chair. He goes, "Oh, that's funny because you actually kind of look like a dick." You know, and it popped into my head while I'm doing all three of those things. You know,
So what do you do? So like
I don't have writer's block, and I don't think writer's block actually exists. Writer's block only manifests itself in people who don't read a lot. Like most people in the self-help space, they're like, "Oh, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and the Daily Stoic and all these other nonfiction books." Bro, I watch Netflix. I read like I've got 17 books on my floor here. I've got more books stacked here. I've got there's books over here behind that little massage gun thing. You know, I read all the time, and I watch movies. You can't tell stories unless you consume stories. It's like a chef who doesn't eat. You want to write a book, you need to read a ton of books. You know, I've got 7 bookshelves in my hall and 3 more in the living room. And they're all slam full. And then I've got books, like I said, stacked up on the floor. I've got books in this cabinet. I've got this microphone is sitting on a book.
That's one thing I do a lot of read, or I do a lot of audio now, just because I don't. If I sit down and start to read a book, I fall asleep. But I have time in the car. I have time walking or working out, and I'll throw in an audio book. But I pretty much, I don't know. I'm sort of a pragmatist here. I feel like I don't have time for fiction, so I do all the self-help. I'm always trying to get better, but I have been feeling the itch recently to introduce some fiction into my life. I used to read.
It's okay to just enjoy things.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be about leveling up.
It's hard as a busy dad to feel like, well, I need to make use of this time in getting better. But I think sometimes this is necessary. So your book, will it be out on audio as well? Like, can people get it on audio when it's audible?
I am shopping the market right now. There's like 3-4 people I have in mind to narrate the audiobook. I could do it, but I would much rather just write the next one.
You
know, I've been told I have a face for radio. And
well, you have a great voice and you have a great face, but I get the time thing. You know, it may be hard to sit there and read.
Well, it's not that I don't have the time. It's that I would be doing that while I could be doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The next,
it's prioritizing your time. Yeah,
it's like it's not even prioritizing my time. It's just like I don't want to.
Oh, no. That too. I mean, again, do what you're good at, and what do you want to do.
I would much rather be, because I've got 7 more planned out in this series already, and there's a part of me that wants to flash finish the sequel and publish it next week.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you can't just publish book after book. Who says you can just do stuff? But somebody asked me last week about why I wanted to create a character like this with his casual chauvinism.
Yeah.
Which, it's like, he calls his female co-adventurer in the book sweetheart, and you didn't do that bad for a woman. And people are like, why would you do? Okay, one, it's hilarious, it's funny, because she picks up a crowbar and hits a guy in the face, and he goes, hey, remind me not to piss you off. She goes, well, if you get us out of here, I'll consider it. It's fun, but pulp adventure fiction used to be super fun. Now every fiction novel, even if it's about a friggin', time-traveling assassin spy, there's some kind of reflection of whatever moral standing the author has, right? And every adventure story we have now is this CGI-laden blockbuster with these interchangeable heroes that all follow this kind of predictable formula, right? They've sanitized the danger. They've sanitized all the consequences. And, my protagonist is not indestructible. If he gets beat up and shot, he's beat up and shot for the rest of the book.
Yeah. Right.
You know, the reason that movies like The Mummy, you know, Rick O'Connell was a great protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
The Indiana Jones franchise, there's a video game series called Uncharted. You know, it's
That's a great name.
adventure. Yeah, it's a great name. I think they made a Netflix movie about it with that little skinny Spider-Man kid, Tom Holland.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg's in it. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and they're all real people. They get hurt, they bleed. They're not morally perfect. Like Rick O'Connell was like,
yeah.
You know, I'm a mercenary thief just trying to make it
Yeah.
kind of thing. Indiana Jones was kind of morally perfect, but not so, where he was like, I'm still good. I still don't mind destroying this temple so I can put this thing in a museum and the museum pays me for it.
Right.
You know, that was kind of his.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, but I'm putting it in a museum. So that kind of alleviates all of, hey, I just destroyed this temple and was a grave robber.
Right.
Right. You know, but they're more grounded and they're more relatable. They don't have this Mary Sue kind of thing about them where they're just perfect. They're overpowered and they're not protected by plot armor. The reason The Mummy and Indiana Jones and all these other adventure stories like King Solomon's Mines with Richard Harrison. Oh, that's a great Alan Quartermain, right? They had to earn it. They had to earn the win in the end of it. You know, it wasn't something that just kind of happened because it followed the formula.
Why do you think that has changed? Do you think is it just the industry is just so afraid of offending someone that they just sanitize the faults out of people, or what do you think's going on?
Well, I think they had the success of the earlier Marvel movies. And now you can see that even every brand new Marvel movie and series that gets put out now, it's just like beating the crap out of a dead horse with these. Oh, great. This person has powers and, oh, but you know, they're human. You see, they're having relationship issues, but here they are indestructible in a battle against some intergalactic enemy.
Yeah.
And it gets boring.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the entertainment industry stopped appealing to men about that time because the adventure genre has always spoken to guys. If you've ever spoken to anybody who's ever worked at a used bookstore, you have the men that are always going to the Westerns and the adventures and the women that are always going to the romance or the murder mysteries. Right. And that's half your bookstore gone. You know, but the adventure genre has always kind of spoken to men because it makes them kind of reconnect with this kind of a primal thing in them, you know. And yeah, you know, there's the argument that, well, it's just explosions and treasure maps and last minute escapes, and those don't hurt, but most of it's about danger, discovery, and the test of this man's will against the unknown, right? You know, at its core, adventure fiction embodies the idea that a man should be competent in a world that should be and is dangerous, you know, but it's not insurmountable. It kind of shows this inner drive, right? It speaks to the instinct that we have of, you've heard the thing, I was born way too late to explore the world and way too early to explore the stars. You know, that's why we love movies like Interstellar. That's why we love the Indiana Jones. You know, as a kid, we always read these books and was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to go and explore the pyramids and fight mummies. And, you know, it's just this natural thing, right? And it's this kind of a subtle reminder that skill matters. You can't be this fat, lazy loser and not die in the first act.
Yeah.
You know, but modern storytelling shies away from real dangers. They're too perfect to fail, or their stakes are so low that the struggles don't, like with the others I mentioned, feel earned, right? we love stories and we're drawn to them that throw men into the fire. Death is real. Betrayal is inevitable, whether the environment's a jungle, a desert, a dark alley. Everything is trying to kill you, but the hero presses on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we respect these men. Everybody's like, oh man, Martin Riggs is a great protagonist. Who doesn't love Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon? Who doesn't love John McClane? That is pulp adventure. He had to earn every single bit of that win in all of the wins, in all of the relevant diehards. The last two were kind of but they're not superheroes. They're not chosen ones. They just got sucked into it and they got no choice but to either lay down and die or figure it the hell out. And that's the kind of stories that I wanted to write because we don't see them anymore. If you go on any streaming service and you click on an Indiana Jones movie, there's always those little tabs of you might also like, and you can see kind of similar movies.
Yeah.
You're going to get The Mummy,
mm-hmm.
and then you're going to get like Mission Impossible. And then you're going to get military-esque special super operator secret squirrel man movies. And those aren't fun anymore. They've been beaten to death. Every other fiction novel out there now is it was cool when Schwarzenegger did it in Commando when Alyssa Milano looked like an ugly little boy. Like, hey, you were this super duper commando special operator man and we're coming back to you for one last mission. That is tired and done now. He was perfect. And that was great. But look at Rambo. His first instinct or his first interaction with the film was, I'm shooting at cops and I'm a wanted man.
Yeah.
Because he's damaged. He's broken.
Yeah.
Those people feel more relevant than, hi, I was a skinny kid in Brooklyn and the government put some weird liquid in me and now I'm a superhero with a shield.
So your book that you came out sounds like you sort of view as trying to break from that convention that's going on now and to kind of bring back this maybe older way of looking at things and the stuff that appeals to people. Do you think that the market is out there? People want that, or are you hoping to sort of recreate that market by the book, if that makes sense? Are you trying to rekindle men or women, but men's interest in reading these books, or do you think they're out there starving for it and you're gonna?
They are out there starving for it because the indie publishing market is full of stories like that, and they sell like hotcakes. My book sales are proof of it now, and I released the thing yesterday. It's I put it on Amazon and Kindle yesterday afternoon. It finally went live, and sales immediately started coming in.
Do you have a link to it by chance?
Yeah, I will
in the chat.
Provide you with a link.
Yeah. Yes. It's probably the one over on Twitter.
I've got the Amazon thing pulled up here too.
If you want to drop it in the chat, even
private chat comments,
put in the comment section. Yeah,
got it. I'll join the chat. I have to join the live chat and by connecting my YouTube, and I don't have it connected yet. So I'm gonna send it to you in the private chat, and you can put it in the comments.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm gonna grab it, copy, and I'll put it in the comment. Let's see if this works here. Okay, you guys will have to in the chat. I'll have to let me know if that's okay. Good. And I know one question that people had. If you don't mind me backtracking just a bit, but I know Bradley and Pickin had both kind of raised this question. So, like, how do you know when it's good enough? Like, I assume you can look at a story, you'd be like, I could refine this thing forever, or do you kind of reach a point where you're like, it's finished. Like I like it. I mean, maybe there's some little tweaks, but I'm not constantly thinking about I should have changed this, I should have added this. Like, how do you get to the point where I know it's ready to go out, or how do you solve that?
You don't.
Mm,
I
yeah.
published a book yesterday, and all day today I'm going, I wonder if I should have added
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
I wonder if I should have changed this.
Yeah.
And that never ever goes away.
Yeah.
Did the story get told? Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is everyone who ever picks up that book gonna go, this is the holy grail of books? No. But if somebody goes, this was a fun read, I enjoyed it, that's enough for me, right? I'm not stopping at one.
Hmm.
You know, I've got favorite authors. Vince Flynn was one of my favorite author. He died a couple of years ago. He had cancer. And then two people have taken over his books. I say couple, it's been more like 10,
Hmm.
but two people have taken over his books. One guy was Kyle Mills, who did a great job keeping the Mitch Rapp character alive.
Hmm.
And this other guy is Don Bentley. And I'm struggling to get through his first Mitch Rapp book. It's just not the same. I'll give him a chance on the second one, but I go in and I talk to, I look in all of these other rooms of people who were Mitch Rapp fans, and it's kind of split 50-50. People are hating the writing style that Don Bentley took, while those same people who love it hated Kyle's style. Literature and books and entertainment is always going to be subjective, and you're not going to make everyone happy. That's what I'm talking about when I say I've gotten feedback and criticism, whether I like it or not. I'm going to have so many people turn around and say, your book was terrible. Cool. Thanks for buying it. And
Yeah.
then other people are going to turn around and say, your book was amazing. And you're going to go, awesome. Thanks. I feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I feel better now. But some people aren't going to like it. Some people will. Some people will go, this isn't written like the intricate spy novel that I read. Yeah, because it's not an intricate spy novel. It's a fast-paced 90-minute movie in print.
Hmm.
And that's what I write.
Yeah. So I'm curious then. I mean, what will I have no understanding of the economics behind any of this. I had a friend recently that wrote he's writing a series of children's fiction, like bedtime fiction. I think he did it more as a just something that he just had to do. Men get to your 40s and you got to like do. Is this something that if someone wanted to do this, is it something that is more designed to fill a passion, a purpose, or can you actually make real money doing it?
I mean, you can make real money doing it. I've been doing it for years.
Hmm.
You know, um, the economics are, it just depends. I mean, if you independently publish, you got to be doing all of your own marketing, unless you're going through something like Ingram Spark, which is a great little publication service. You can build your book right there on the site, and then they wholesale to Barnes and Noble and all this other. So it's relatively easy to get your book. No, I think Ingram Spark does Target and Walmart. They might be doing Barnes and Noble too. I can't remember. But it's relatively easy to get your book on a shelf. Whether or not it ends up in a clearance bin with a sticker on it,
Yeah.
just depends on the sales. But it's relatively easy to do. And the trad publishing thing where like Random House or whatever, they put out a list every couple of years of the kind of books that they're looking for. And as of late, you've always had to be one of those authors. It's got to be, you have to be some marginalized, oppressed minority with 37 genders and anti-white. And you're like, oh,
Right.
well, I wrote a fiction novel about a guy who chases Nazis, who's
Yeah.
chasing a
Right.
Nazi.
Yeah. Right.
You have to do that. But there's thousands of small publishing houses you can go through that publish exactly the genre you're writing for. You just got to look for them and find them. You can go
Yeah.
that route, or you can go the route of, I can find a book agent who specializes in this particular genre. You don't have to pay a book agent except out of royalties. Any book agent that turns around and says, "All right, my services cost this much," well, don't do that.
Mhm.
So don't. You should not be paying a book agent before you get paid. You
Yeah.
need to give them your manuscript. They need to go, "Oh, this was great. Yeah, I can market this," and then they do it, and then you both get paid.
Right.
But is everyone who writes a book going to be an author? Yes, you wrote a book. Are they going to
Yeah.
be a paid author? Probably not.
Right.
But you
Well,
can sell books. But out of 1,000 new books that hit the market every year, I would say 900 of them sell less than 1,000 copies.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's just the reality of anything.
Right. So you're obviously a professional writer and you do make money at it. For the average Joe who has a compelling desire to write a book, would you what would be your kind of honest, blunt feedback to them as far as if they're approaching this, I'd like to it's something I'd enjoy doing and I'd like to make a little extra money versus this is just something whether I make any money or sell any copies, this is something I want to check off my list. What would you say to the person who is approaching it from the standpoint, I'd like to see if I can make enough money to make it worth my while to do that? Is that within reach for most people, or is that just not realistic?
You can just do stuff.
Yeah.
It takes less than 20 minutes to have a book published on Amazon. You design the cover, you upload the manuscript, you make sure everything's formatted correctly in your Word document before you upload it. You decide what you're going to sell it at, and then you click publish.
That's crazy.
You can just do stuff. Anybody who goes, I really want to write a book, but I don't know if it would sell. Well, you don't know if it won't either.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to get beat up by a random Korean midget when I walk out my front door. Chances are low, but never zero. It might happen. But if you just want to write a book, write a book.
Right.
No one's stopping you. You can just do stuff. You don't need permission.
Do you know if people that have kind of, I don't know, like done that and then it just took off, like they just like, hey, I'm just going to go put something out on Amazon, and for whatever reason, it just takes off
Every
organically?
author that's got any success did it just that.
That way, their first one, yeah. Right.
Not the first one, but one.
They had one that took off, right? The first one that took off, right?
Yeah. That's every author. Nobody sits out and goes, well, I was going to go get a job at the auto plant, but instead, I think I'm just going to get a job as a writer writing books. I mean, people have to want to read it, and so it's a crapshoot anyway. But if it's a fun, entertaining story that speaks to a specific audience, then they're going to buy it. Even if that audience is 10 people, those 10 people will buy it, and you've accomplished your goal of selling to that entire audience.
Let me ask you this. So your book that you just brought out, your is live now. People can get it in paperback and on Kindle. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
for some reason, it's something to do with the metadata. You can't find the Kindle version in the book category. You have to go to the Kindle store, and you can't find the book version in the Kindle category. You have to go and click on the book category. It's something to do with the metadata where they don't link up for the first couple of days. If you can't find the Kindle version, because the link I gave you takes you straight to the paperback.
Okay.
Because I make $1 whole more for every paperback I sell than I do with Kindle, even though the price difference is, $10. But if you want to write a book, write a book. If you don't want to publish it, don't. But if you want other people to read it, publish it.
Do you have any expectation as to do you have any assumptions you have as far as let's say you sell the first 1,000 copies of your book, do you have any expectation as to what the breakdown will be between people that buy it in hardcover and those that are watching on Kindles? I'm guessing maybe your target audience is going to be more heavily paperback, but maybe I'm making some wrong assumptions there.
No, I don't really look at that. I mean, Amazon gives me the data of the percentage of who's buying in what format. Like if I, look at it here, it's I think it's under the orders. Yeah, it's about 60-40 right now in favor of paperback.
Okay.
But that just means that's just all the paperbacks that have shipped. For Bradley asking him how many sales in the first day, the only sales I can actually track live are anything that has already shipped when it comes to the paperback versions, because people can always cancel their orders. They can be like, oh, I changed my mind, it hasn't shipped yet, I'll cancel it, and then it doesn't get processed, so that data doesn't come into me. I can see I've got a few hundred Kindle sales, and it's $6.99 on Kindle, so I figure more people would gravitate to that anyway. But I'm a physical book guy. I like the way books feel and smell and sometimes taste. It's that kind of thing.
Is Amazon actually printing your book, or are they just shipping it?
Okay. Amazon prints it.
So what kind
on demand?
Well, that's what I was curious. I was what the inventory is on it. They can print things relatively quickly, I suppose, to fill need.
Yeah, when I ordered my author proof, which my 16-year-old son is in there reading now, I ordered it 2 days ago, and it arrived yesterday.
That's crazy.
No, 3 days ago, and it arrived yesterday. And it was printed because it only traveled from Columbia, South Carolina, which is about 2 hours away. There's an Amazon hub down there, but that's where the book was printed and sent to me.
That's crazy. I mean, I have in my head, I always thought it's just kind of long. There's this great delay. They got to get a whole bunch, you got to go to some place and they print a bunch and come out. That's all changed, huh? Is that all changed now?
I mean, you can do that. Some places still do that. Most wholesalers are going to order from a print on demand place because they have the capacity to print fast if a lot of orders come in.
Yeah.
But they're going to order a giant bulk wholesale type order, and then they're going to store that what you call it. They're going to store that inventory and then distribute. Right. And yes, I don't personally pay an overhead, but it comes out of the royalties. I think for this one, it's $4.94 or 64 cents printing cost, and that just comes out of the $15.99 that people are paying.
Okay. That's I had no idea. I had no idea that print on demand. I mean, I could see Amazon doing that. I had no idea that was a thing. How long has it been? How long has it been like that?
I wrote my first book under my name in 2020. It was a nonfiction. I've unpublished it because I wasn't Catholic then, and there's a lot in there that I wrote. Well, there's a lot in there that I wrote that I now disagree with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that made me a lot of money. And it was kind of in the self-help, but more of like the masculinity kind of realm. And that was great. But I just unpublished them because that's completely different part of my life now. So it was kind of like a manosphere book, Brad.
Interesting.
But not so much red pill, any of that. It was more like, don't be a sissy, and the reality of how men are always going to be drawn to tribes. Tribalism is not a bad thing. Exclusionism is a good thing. Diversity is only a strength if it prevents incest. Natural reality of the order of the world kind of thing.
I'm curious then, do authors change how they write stories now with the idea that a growing percentage of consumers are going to be either reading it on a tablet or maybe more so listening to audio? So I'm I'm an Audible guy. Like I like to when I'm in the car, throw in it and I listen to it. I don't I don't like reading on Kindles. So, but for people that are going to, I don't know how much of a market share the people are that are listening to audio, but I would have to think that's going to become more and more common as people are walking around with phones and don't have the attention span to read anything either in print or digitally. Does that change how you write?
No, the story's going to be the same. I mean, it's
Hmm.
267 pages on Kindle, but it's 303 pages on paperback, but that's about the only difference. And that's just,
Okay.
you know, the way they format it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
I'm still going to tell a story from beginning to end. I'm not trying to write it. I mean, every book should be written to keep somebody, the reader's attention. They don't want to get bored reading it. But people always go, well, my book isn't good enough. I don't know how to hold attention. So I'm not going to finish this book and I'm not going to publish this book. You know how many books I've gotten halfway through and I'm like, this thing sucks.
Mhm.
Yet it was on a shelf at Barnes and Noble and I just stop reading it and never finish.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so what if you don't end up on the New York Times bestsellers? That's pay to play anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know because I put my clients, my ghostwriting clients, on the New York Times bestsellers list all
Mhm.
the time. And they're like, hey, I get a lot of sales because it's on the New York Times bestsellers list. But
Not.
that was part of the whole point,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. How do you see um the advent of, I mean, look at this. You and I are we met online. We're on opposites, well, different sides of the country. Live streaming to YouTube. YouTube is blowing up. Social media. What role, if any, do you see authors like building a community where people can interact with you, interact with other fans, either on YouTube or Twitter or something like that? Do you see that
I
happening?
mean, they
Or
do it. They do it all the time as it is now. I know a lot of indie authors that do it. My publisher and editor uh, that supplies to me all of my, well, the majority of my ghostwriting clients. She has a community uh, that's kind of enveloped through her Substack, and people interact and talk with her all the time. And she's
yeah,
got this online community of people in like a Slack group where it's just other indie authors,
yeah,
and so it's massive.
yeah,
And yeah, you can write books anonymously. Just Mark Twain, his real name is Samuel Clemens.
right,
You know, but most people don't realize that. And with Amazon publishing, when you fill out your author bio, you just throw on whatever name you want to appear on the book in the author bio, and then you put that name on the book. When it says by, you're not going to say by Bradley LaPratt. You're going to say by Big Django or whatever you,
hmm,
you want to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, your bank accounts and such are on there because you want to get paid,
yeah,
but you're just about as secure as that,
yeah,
with anything else you put your bank account on. I mean, your bank account's linked to Amazon as it is now.
hmm, right,
You got the one click pay. Your bank account's linked to Netflix and
mhm,
Hulu, but they can't. Well, yeah, you have to trust Amazon. Well, you do that every single time you order something from them.
yeah, right. Do you think? I mean, so of course I have an affinity for pseudonyms because don't I don't disclose my real name and identity online. For me, it's mostly security reasons so that it doesn't.
Well, my real name is Stephen King.
Yeah, okay, there you go. But so so why do people tend to write under fictitious names? Is it just because the name is easier and catchier, or is it more of a they don't necessarily want their real life people to know that they write?
I don't know. I would say it's kind of the same reason why you look at like actors' names
Mhm.
and you're like,
It's got
oh,
to be marketable, sort of
it has to be marketable.
branding and
I
stuff.
think
Yeah.
there was a scene in the movie Scream 3 where the Gale Weathers uh character who was, what was her name? The chick who played Monica. I can't remember her name. Um, but she's with the actress who's playing her in the movie, and they're down there talking to Carrie Fisher, and they're like, "Wow, you look just like Carrie Fisher." Yeah, but I'm not. I'm Bianca Burnett. You know. And she's like, "Huh, what a stage name." She goes, "What are you? You're one to talk, Judy Jurgenstern." No, Judy Jurgenstern isn't really a marketable name like
Right.
Katharine Hepburn.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yep. I get that. Um,
like Lee Child. His name isn't Lee Child,
right.
but everybody knows him of Lee Child. Well, he's got a brother named Andrew Child. It's also not Andrew Child. Andrew Child. Andrew Child took over the Jack Reacher series. Yeah, but their names aren't Lee and Andrew.
Yeah.
And they're probably their last names aren't Child either.
Right. When you do ghostwriting for people, then is it obvious? Like, is that something that has to get disclosed as this was written by a ghostwriter, or is it
Oh,
just assumed that's what's going on?
no. The reason I say that is because almost every single book that you've ever picked up has been written by a ghostwriter,
Okay.
or at least partly written by a
Yeah.
ghostwriter.
Hmm. Why is that? Is it just
Well, when you look at people who want to outsource things, they're always outsourcing to something to someone who is very skilled,
Mhm.
right? So they come to me and they go, "I've seen people talking about how you're a great ghostwriter and all this other, and I've got, receipts to prove it." The only ghostwriting book that I've ever written where I was personally thanked for, and I didn't write the entire thing, I rewrote a lot of it and tweaked a lot of it, is still number 3 in its category, just behind Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights,
Hmm.
uh, on Amazon. And I was acknowledged and thanked in that one.
Hmm.
But no, I mean,
Wow.
Stephen King has ghostwriters. James Patterson has ghostwriters.
I I grew up reading all the Louis L'Amour books. Did he write his books, or did he have ghostwriters?
Louis L'Amour wrote all of his books with his cousin.
Okay. Didn't he have a was Dana Fuller Ross? I'm trying to think. There was a series I used to read as a kid. I thought Dana Fuller Ross was like a pseudonym for maybe Louis L'Amour or someone else, but that must have been common for like you just create a separate persona and write a whole new series on. Is that more or less how it happened?
Yeah. Um, I've seen that happen before. Obviously, Mark Twain did it where he wrote some books under Samuel Clemens and he wrote other books under uh,
Mark.
Mark Twain.
Why did he write under Mark Twain? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure on that. I mean, it's probably something I could easily find, but it's probably
Yeah.
just wanted to separate one work from another work,
Okay. Hmm.
right?
Interesting.
I guess I could have done that with my fiction series, separated it from my old nonfiction, right, and just chose a pen name.
Mhm.
But I want my name on the cover.
You have a nice name.
I,
You have a nice name that kind of rolls off it's not hard for people to remember and spell. So,
yeah, like I said, it's not Judy Jurgenstern.
yeah, right,
You
right.
know,
Hmm.
like I know it's not his real name, but Harrison Ford is probably one of the only people with Harrison Ford as his birth name.
Right, right.
You've got other was like, well, his stage name is Tom Cruise. What's his real name? Paul Kowalowitz. Or okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean,
Right. That's clearly his name.
yeah, right, right. Okay. Um, so you just went live with the one. People can buy that. And then how soon do you expect the next one or another one to come out?
It
There's a
depends on how
total.
patient. It depends on how patient I want to be. I
Yeah.
have so many books planned out for this
Mhm.
because while they are in a linear order, they're not explicitly connected to previous stories.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like these standalone adventures.
Yeah.
And are you thinking Jeff Dunham, Jonah? Yeah, he's thinking Jeff Dunham.
Okay.
Thinking Jeff Dunham. But I'm having so much fun just inventing these stories. Like this next one is called The Tomb of the Jaguar King. And obviously it takes place in South America, in the Amazon. And there's a little quip in there where it's kind of like a silent nod if you read the first one, where it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Little references and stuff.
little tiny reference, but it's not like
Mm-hmm.
this gigantic glaring Easter egg.
It's not like you had to read the first one to be able to follow the storyline.
No, because it's a completely innocuous
Yeah.
statement. But when I put it in there, in my own head, it made sense for him to go, ah, great, another lunatic chasing a legend.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. So is the this stuff that you're doing, is this something, are you sort of transitioning your like I'm assuming, maybe I shouldn't assume, if all things being equal, you can make more time for your money doing ghostwriting for wealthy people that want a book written as opposed to self-publishing, or am I getting that wrong?
I mean, yeah, ghostwriting clients, you know, they're packed and in line for the next 18 months to it, longer. So
You have that much in the pipeline?
yeah,
Okay.
like my publisher, she's great at marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so even with that, and she's got me and 4 other ghostwriters on staff.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them are short of work. We're not short of work. People want books written. They want stories told, and I've written true crime novels, not novels, but true crime nonfictions. I've written romance, American girl lost in Europe, finds handsome local, turns out to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
The mean girl who's also rich doesn't think she's good enough. I've written those.
Mm-hmm.
I've written, hey, I started off poor and I built this company and here's what I built and here are the lessons I learned. Da 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 da. I've written those.
So you've ghostwritten fiction and nonfiction then?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking that the ghostwriting was primarily, nonfiction, like someone wants to do a memoir or something like that. I really never thought about the fact that people would, especially like Stephen King's, those, would actually have people ghostwrite the fiction type stuff for him. But it sounds like you do
Mhm.
both of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
And sometimes I have like a very specific outline where they've written the outline, they've got all the characters, and they're like, just write this book.
Mhm.
And I look at it, I'm like, this kind of sucks
Mm,
to me,
yeah.
right? But their audience might love it.
Yeah. You're not necessarily their avatar reader or whatever, right?
Yep. So I
Mhm.
just write it. And then, of course, it still goes to the editing process. And with
Mhm.
editing, there's line editing, there's process editing, there's developmental editing. Then there's the proofreading to make sure, you're using the correct comma or, things like that. So me, I do all of those editing jobs for for the books that I ghost write or other books that have been written or ghost written that need to be edited or stuff people wrote themselves and want edited. And so I'm able to kind of do all of that as I go, which is a very stupid thing to do. I do not suggest you edit your books as you write them,
Yeah.
but I've just been doing it for so long and I've done
Mhm.
so many, it's easy for me.
Mhm.
But when I first started writing, I tried to edit and make it perfect as I went, and I lost all steam and it took forever to finish.
Mm,
So it's something that kind of has to come. It's kind of like, when your dad, had you in the front seat, unbuckled in the bench seat pickup, and he's smoking a non-filter Camel, swigging on a Budweiser, shifting gears and steering with one hand. That takes practice.
Yeah.
I don't suggest you do all of those things immediately, but if you start one thing, start smoking and driving, then start drinking and driving, then marry the two, you can get good enough at it.
Is pick and ask a question sort of related to that when you get like do you sometimes when you are let's say your creative side is dry, do you kind of shift and look your lip does the editing process require the creativity or is it more just the mundane okay you're looking for grammar structure spelling like what's the editing process looks like how much of it is like I don't like the storyline here versus let's make it clear and concise and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the editing is always mundane, right? Because you're like, well, if I change this too much, I'm going to have to go and change all this other stuff. But for this, how do I fight brain fog? I don't know. I think I've got some kind of syndrome, but no, I get brain fog too. And sometimes I'll be like, my publisher, she's like, all right, here's this client. You got 20 days to meet this deadline. I'm like, okay. And for 8 days, I've got brain fog.
Yeah.
And then for 3 more days, I'm slowly getting there. And then I have to sit down and pound it out real quick. All right, here's 20,000 words, before the deadline just to get it in under the wire. But you can't create if you don't consume.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you spend a lot of time reading, you're saying.
I'm a reader. I read before bed every night, but I also like to watch The Curse of Oak Island before bed every night. So I'll do that too. And then when my wife falls asleep, I turn the TV off and I read, and then I fall asleep. But I'll go in there and I'll be like, what fun 90s movie, 80s movie, even early 2000s and some modern movies do I just want to watch because I like them? Which am I going to rewatch Breaking Bad for the 500th time? And I'll sit down like I'll binge. All right, I guess I'm going to binge The Sopranos again. Or, I guess I'm going to binge, the Lethal Weapon series again. Watch all 4 of them because I don't care who the haters are. The 4th one was good too. I'll just do that. And then while I'm watching it, the, circus squirrel part of my brain way back here goes, watching Lethal Weapon, I'm like, what if a knight didn't have a foot? And then I go and write a book. Completely unrelated to what I'm watching, but that's, this squirrel brain thing.
Do you have a particular time of day when you like to write, or is it just kind of how I'm feeling in the given moment that you're like, I'm going to go sit down and write for an hour or something?
It kind of depends. Like when I wake up, I take out my dog because she's a husky and she'll make a ton of noise if I don't. And she sleeps right here at the foot of my bed. So I get up, 5 o'clock in the morning, take the dog out. And as I'm walking to the living room, I've got my laptop in my hand that I just snag off my desk and drop it in the chair, take her out, make coffee, sit there, play solitaire on my phone. And then all right, I guess I'll pick up my laptop and I start reading through my story and I go, what would be cool if it happened next? And then I write. And then sometimes I'll do that until 9 p.m. And other times I'm like, my laptop just sat there in the chair while I drank coffee. And then I watched a movie. And then I hung out with my wife and kids. And then I'm like, yeah, I know I was going to take us out to dinner, but I got an idea. And I'll come in here and I'll throw something on my whiteboard and then we'll go get dinner.
Is she pretty tolerant? Does she understand? We just kind of have to adjust ourselves to your what's going on in your brain at any given time.
I mean, she's been with me for over 20 years. She's used to it by now. Because I don't do anything, half measure. I just go, hey, like on the last time I was on your other show, I bought a punching bag because I wanted to add some cardio to my workout because I was powerlifting back then. And hey, it'd be cool if I learned how to punch this bag correctly. Next thing you know, I joined a Golden Gloves gym and I was taking amateur fights.
Right.
and that was literally 18 hours after I bought the punching bag. You know, and so it's like, you know, a couple of like a week and a half ago, I go, man, they don't make movies like this anymore. Finishing, you know, Indiana Jones and the
Yeah.
Last Crusade, and then I go,
Yeah.
I got an idea for a book. And I
Right.
come in here and I sit down and I write the daggum thing in, 3 days.
Is that kind of how you do things? You just kind of type right in. Like I mean, I'm always, I don't. I one of the reasons I like YouTube is I can talk much easier than me sitting typing and editing and stuff. I just ramble and talk, and then I keep track of my ideas on my phone. I got the notes section of, like, if I have an idea for an episode or something, make a note to myself. How do you keep track of ideas as they're coming up? And do you ever like dictate or record a story, like, oh man, I got this great thing, record it, or is it all just direct into the document through your
Well, see, that's the negative thing about the whole squirrel brain thing.
yeah.
Patrick mentioned up here that he gets a rush of ideas and creative energy while he's driving, but then when he gets home, it's gone.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh
Yep.
no, that's pick and choose.
Yep.
Patrick actually goes to my parish. We know each other personally.
Okay.
So we went to RCIA together. But I take out my phone. It's usually sitting in a little cradle charger thing with the neck, whatever.
Yep.
And I'll just hit record on a video.
Yeah.
And I talk to myself on video.
Yep. Right.
And I'll never go back and look at that video. Right. But just going through that
kind of
cements it in the brain a little bit.
Right.
Because I can't be like, hold on, I'm at this red light. Let me send a text to myself or, whatever. But what if he hit him in the face with a machete?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a video on my phone of like this much of my face, camera all closed in, of me saying, what if he hit him in the face with a machete?
Right. Yep. That is, and I struggle with that, like, I feel like I have so many great ideas come and go before like, seconds later, like, my brain is such like, what, I just had a great idea. Now, what was it? Like, it's just gone. So
I'm terrible. I am terrible at that. I'll be sitting right here and, my house is old. It was built in like 1941. And I'll be sitting here writing and I hear my wife coming down the hall, because the floorboard creaks and all this other. And I'm like, typing faster, typing faster, typing faster, typing faster. Because if she opens that door and asks me a question,
I know
what I was about to say. And it's not her fault. She's got a legitimate, hey, are you hungry? And I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten in, a day and a half. So yeah, I'm hungry.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I lose my train of thought and I sit here. I'm like, well, that's not going in the book. Something else then.
Yeah, I know. I think I think creative people, we always deal with that. I know Pick and Shoot, he does a lot of music. Music is his thing. I'm more of I like to make videos, and you're obviously a writer, but we're all, I think, all creative people in just a different way, right?
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I lose my train of thought and get distracted so easily. I haven't done I walked into the room and forgot why I walked in there yet. Obviously, I went in there to use the bathroom.
Give yourself a couple years. You'll get there.
But if I'm like, oh man, I'm working out a story detail in my head, sitting on my chair. If my laptop's not with me, it's not going in the book.
Yeah. Right.
Because by the time all right, I guess I'll go back there and work on it. I sit down, I'm like, yeah, it's gone. And I leave again.
Yeah. I've gone everything from notepads, and then my problem is I write stuff down and I can't read my writing when I'm done. Like, it's just so illegible, or it doesn't make sense to me. So at least with the phone, I can like pull it out and type a quick note, or like you said, record something. And like you said, I don't often go back and read it, but something about it just kind of makes it stick a little more.
Yeah. It's like with the notebook thing. He's talking about, his dad kept a notebook in his shirt pocket.
Yep.
But if you actually take the time to write it down, you remember it because that utilizes a different part
Yes.
of your brain.
Right.
Like I wrote it down for nothing. I just wasted this paper, but the act of writing it down
Yep.
cemented it in my brain.
Yep.
And so that's
Yep.
how I am. But I also have the big whiteboard on the wall here. You know, eventually I'll run out of room. We just have saint cards stuck to it. but
Hazard to being
every now and
Catholic.
yeah, but it'll be just random stuff, and my wife
Yeah.
will just kind of look at it and I have no idea what that means. It'll be like Scott's service hamster.
Yeah.
What?
Makes sense to you as hopefully.
Yeah, I know exactly what it means.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I think that's just what you have to do for sure. So, well, I know we've been going on for about an hour and a half here. Um, uh, and my kids are getting steadily louder as they're waking up. So, I know someone asked about ages. Your youngest is 10. So my youngest is 2. So I have a very loud house when they're all up, which is why I tend to do a lot of. Someone asked about our other podcast. So when I record with Jonah, it's like at 5:30 in the morning. It's the only time we can find that's quiet. So that's what I have to do. Saturday mornings are nice because people don't wake up quite so early, but now they're waking up. So well, Jeff, where what's the best way for people to find you or follow you if they're interested in purchasing your books? Do you do anything? Do you have any kind of side gigs, hustles out there besides selling books? Like where can I send people?
Just writing books for people. Occasionally I'll take on like an online coaching client for people who are like, hey, I want to start a business, or I want to get in or start a ghostwriting agency, or I need a writing coach. And some people are like, hey, I want to start, an e-com business. Well, I've done those things, and I did them successfully. Nobody buys an unsuccessful company,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So I'll take on clients and do that. But if you want to find me, the easiest place is going to be on Twitter, X. And it's super easy to remember my username. It's the Jeff Putnam.
Right.
Super easy.
Yep.
I think because there's a lot of other Jeff Putnams out there. I'm the worst one, and I wanted to differentiate myself from them so that they didn't, their reputations weren't tarnished. Because I have a lot of bad takes. Well, a lot of gnarly opinions, and I'm perfectly okay with people thinking that, I'm a bad guy.
I think your account is probably big enough that even if they just type in Jeff Putnam, it's probably gonna show up for you anyway. At least it does when I search, but maybe that's because we're connected already. Someone I want to just address this question that Bradley had. Maybe you can weigh in on it too. So I'm a busy guy. I've got most of my kids are at home yet. I have a busy job. We have a small farm here, so we live out in the country. I cut and do firewood and all that, and then I do a lot of YouTube content. And I think the trick, and I'm constantly asked by people that are retired or like, how do you get so much done? I'm just like, you just make time. Like I think the more time you have, the more you just screw around. I have to get stuff done. So it's just, I think the shorter time you have to do something, you just find a way to do it. Is that kind of how you do it?
If my kids were still little, I wouldn't have time for all of this.
Yeah.
But now like me and my wife want to go somewhere. We can leave the house for like 10 hours and come back and they're still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I've got my 16-year-old, and my 19-year-old works from home and he's here. But the 12-year-old and the 10-year-old, they know how to go to the fridge and get milk and, like my 10-year-old knows how to make eggs, so they're largely independent. Yeah. If my kids were younger like yours, I wouldn't have time to do all of this as much as I have now. But my wife stay at home. So, I mean, technically we're both stay at home. I don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But she's amazing. And she's like super mom, super wife, that kind of puts everybody else first. But as far as balancing it, it's I never let what I'm doing take over what needs to be done,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
So if right now they came in and said, hey, this needs to be done. All right, well, I'm done. Bye.
Yep.
I'm going to go
Yep.
do that. If I'm in the middle of writing something, it's not like I completely self-sacrifice what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to go write this book. And my wife and kids will go, okay, well, dad's writing. We're not going to go bother him,
Hmm.
or I'm back here working.
Hmm.
Or sometimes I'll say, hey, I got to finish work first if it's not
Hmm.
something like imperative.
Yeah.
But I can just say, I'm not doing squat today. I'm just going to
Hmm.
hang out with the family. I can do
Hmm.
that. And so it's
I,
easier. I'll admit it's much easier for me having,
yeah.
you know, self-sufficient children.
Mhm.
Like if my wife and I want to go out of town for a concert, we can leave them with people in their care that are their siblings that are adults.
Yeah. Yeah. We're still, I mean, we're kind of halfway in between. Like when we had, like, let's say 5 or 6 kids that were all like 12 and under, like that's a
Yeah, I
huge
didn't have time
difference.
for anything
That's a
then
huge
either.
difference versus, even when we had 8, but we had 3 teenagers in the house. That's just a very different dynamic because you have other kids that can change diapers, get kids ready for, whatever. But it is tough. My wife and I, we went on our first overnight since we literally before we had kids. The first time in 22 years we went anywhere overnight without kids. So it's but the day to day isn't too bad. But trying to get away is hard when you have little kids, but it does get better. It may take a
Yeah.
while, it may take you to my age, but it does eventually
Yeah.
happen.
And, when people always ask, well, how did you do it? I don't
Yeah.
know.
You just
I
did it.
woke up and I did the
Yeah.
thing. I don't have any like,
Yeah.
you have to visualize and mindset. No, I'm like,
Just
I just
humans are
got up.
resilient. You find a
I got
way.
up and I did the thing that needed to get done.
Yeah.
I went to work. I came
Yeah.
home. I
Yeah.
paid a guy to cut my grass
Yep.
because I didn't
Yep.
have time to do it, mainly because I hate cutting grass.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. That's absolutely true. So, okay. Well, good. Jeff, I really enjoyed this conversation. We'll have to do it again sometime. Maybe we'll talk chainsaws and tractors next time or something like that. But I'm gonna get your book. Do you don't know yet if it'll come out on audio? Just because I have an Audible subscription. That's the easiest way for me to consume it. But if it's gonna be a while, maybe I'll
It'll
just
probably be
go.
a while on that. I'm still
Okay.
shopping
Okay. Well,
because
if you
I
get.
listen mainly because I've got an Audible subscription too,
Mhm.
and there'll be books that I love, but I just want
Mhm.
to either read again or hear
Yeah.
again when I'm driving.
Yeah.
And then the narrator has just this terrible
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you ruined that whole book for me.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
Not everyone can sound like Sam Elliott when they read the book,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it needs to be someone
Yeah.
who i- is at least tolerable to listen to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if they try to do character voices, that's fine. If you're, raising your pitch or changing the flow,
Mhm.
accent, whatever, but you need to be good at it. And some people
Yeah.
just aren't.
Yeah. And I guess I'm used to, like I said, the self-help book, so it's I don't know, the quality of the person isn't as much as, like you said, maybe a fiction where it can make really change the mood of the book for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, all right, Jeff, I appreciate it. We're getting dumped on with snow here today, so I'll have to push snow later on. So, I'm gonna go get my breakfast. But I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate you hopping on and talking to us today.
Yeah, man. Had a good time.
All right. Thanks everyone who was in the chat. And until next time, everyone, have a good one.